All right. Well, hello, Paul. How are
Hey, Jack.
things? You got a
Good.
you got a report out, I hear.
Yeah. Yeah. It started shipping
Yeah.
this week, last week, and you got it.
Yeah, I just got my copies today,
Yeah.
so I got a couple of boxes. So if you're just showing up, this is our topic today: is the 2026 Swanepoel Trends Report, 21st edition. So welcome everybody that's coming into the Zoom. I know we had a bunch of folks sign up for this. So if this is your first time with us, welcome. My name is Jack Miller. I'm the president and CEO of T360, and I have here Paul Hagey, who is the editor in chief of our publications and is responsible for research at T360. And again, if it's your first time here, we're delighted to have you. I see a lot of familiar faces coming in to the attendee list, so that's great. We love to see our good friends coming back. If you are coming in, let us know where you're coming from. And so, name, brokerage, uh, locale, that's great. We want to see that. We will have the chat and the Q&A open during the call. So if you do have questions or you want to make a comment or something, things like that, I'll be monitoring those as we go through everything, and hopefully we can be able to address them. We've got about an hour block for this. Paul, we've done this in the past, and I think we've tried to fit it into 45 minutes
Yep.
overview, and it's not quite
We
enough
started
time.
bumping up against that pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of material. When you do thousands of hours of research and put it into a book, and then you need to talk about it. Sometimes an hour can feel constraining. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and
we tried to cut out some slides. I think we maybe we
great,
sharpened it a little bit.
great. I see a lot of people. Hey, Kip, great to see you. Nick, excellent. Glad to have you here. Nick Pazio, Mike Kelly, North Carolina. Oh, we got another Nick Profeta from Calgary. So some Canadians here. Welcome, Canadians, folks. We're glad to have you always. Our friends to the north are very welcome. We have a couple of employees that are in Canada now, so it's been fun. We've done a little bit more in Canada over the past few years, and always great. Another person from Calgary. So great. Yeah, they must have a little group up there. So, okay, well, see, it's a couple minutes after the hour. I know we've got a tremendous amount of content to cover from this year's report. There's some great stuff. First of all, before we jump in, I want to say I'm very enthusiastic about this year's report. I challenged both Paul and the research team to um, kind of narrow their focus into a few key areas and to bring us some really great statistics and charts and facts and things like that. And this report is chock full of them. And what we're going to share with you today is just a portion of the report. There's a lot more in there. I am going to share some slides. So there'll be some slides that we'll present. All of the material on the slides is in the report. So I'd recommend getting the people ask for the slides. The slides are not the
Well,
material. Get
as
the
we
report.
know, Jack, it's the report's kind of designed to be studied and a resource over time. And so hopefully just get people's feet wet a little bit with some of the topics.
And we will be some of the charts we are publishing on our social channels. So and if you are a report subscriber and you have a special need for some charts, then we work with people that are like, hey, I want to present some of this at my leadership meeting, or I want to do something with this for our subscribers. We definitely can facilitate that. So, Paul, why don't we jump in? Tell us about,
Sure.
give us an overview of
Yeah.
what is
Well,
the Swanepoel Trends Report for those that are new, and what went into this year's report.
Well, I should say, start off by saying this is the 21st edition of the report, and of course, founded by Stefan Swanepoel, our fearless chairman of T360. And um, it's designed to be a strategic resource for leaders to give them a broad overview of the key details of what's happening now and what that means for them in the next roughly 18 to 24 months. And we tried to distill down, synthesize all the big trends and put that horizon on it with some of the key details that gives them the insight to make key strategic decisions in their businesses. And that's kind of the whole strategy and structure approach to the report. And so it kind of we analyze the news, we talk to people, we do a lot of research, we have some of our own data and numbers that we analyze, and we apply that to the trends we're seeing. And we try to really distill the overarching themes we're seeing into really digestible, concise trend analysis. And we, this year, as you mentioned, we focused just on five, and we did a much more focus on actually presenting them as trends. Like what is happening? What are the different threads coming together? And what does it mean? And what does the data say about
Yeah,
it?
I'd say that's the biggest difference in this year's report, Paul, is that there are some things that really have converged into mega trends where it's like, oh,
Yes.
we're having a lot of things that are all happening together that are
And they're all
progressing.
talking together so tight. It's amazing when you look at it. It's like there's overlapping.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. There's a lot of as we go through them, you'll start to see threads that are weaved throughout the entire report because all of these trends are moving together to create the industry that we're in and to create the next 2 or 3 years of the industry. So it's really fabulous. Well, why don't I pull up some slides? Let's jump in. Let's
Okay. You
so
want to, maybe I'll present, I don't know if we have the slide of what the five trends are, and then we can hit them
I
sequentially.
don't have an overview slide. We
Yeah.
just have all of
I'll
them.
just I'll just
Now
talk
the
through
deep
real
dive.
quickly.
Yeah,
We have one on
talk through that first.
brokerage consolidation. It's, as we know, it's been a major year of consolidations. We've had three consolidations this year, not
Mm,
counting the pending Compass Anywhere
yeah,
acquisition that are industry changing. Like even one would be huge. And we're talking about Keller Williams being acquired. We're talking about Compass acquiring Atworld. We're talking about Redfin getting acquired by Rocket. And these are huge industry changing acquisitions, three just this year. Then we kind of pull together a bunch of kind of different threads of a trend, and we call it profile of industry in flux. And we analyze kind of what's happening with the traditional business model, which we'll get into when we start talking about it, which is really compelling. And some of the numbers, Jack, were really surprised me when you started applying what's actually happening with real numbers. And it's pretty insightful too. Some of the challenges the traditional model has, but also why it's resilient. And then we dive into in that chapter also just a little bit about NAR and the new leadership. Of course, we all know Nakia is kind of a powerhouse and some of the new vision there. We look at agentic AI and kind of how some of how that is reshaping the whole industry and operations and the power that that is unleashing for companies and some of the details of how that's being done. And then we talk about some of the just the overarching, once again, zooming out, there's some different several categories of legal threads that
mhm.
are happening, and we just we overall like what's happening, what's next with a horizon of like 18, 24 months. So it's a good summary. Although, as we all know, that challenge is happening very fast. Those things are happening really fast. Then we dive into which relates really to the consolidation because, as you know, Jack, it's not just consolidation, it's organic growth.
Yeah, it's
And
actual
we
market
profile
growth of
in depth.
competitors. Yeah, these big competitors that are really a lot of them we call it the national brokerage platform. How those have become huge in the last 5 years.
And it's a deep analysis and profile of the real brokerage, which is really compelling and kind of eye-opening and sheds so much light on what we talk. It's like I know when I'm researching it, and I think it comes through in the chapter, it's like, oh, this is different. And kind of go into how and some of the opportunities that it presents and some of the challenges it actually has as well. Um, then we talk about the integrated real estate consumer experience as illustrated by what's happening with Rocket
It's a
and Redfin
mortgage, title, servicing, home
at a scale
ownership,
we've never seen
the
before.
full life cycle, the full life
It's
cycle.
not new. It's not a new idea. It's a scale that's different, and we go into some of the strategies and some of the details of what that looks like and how this would potentially foundationally changing the way brokerages and agents interact and consumers come together.
And then our
Um,
number one trend, our number
The
one trend.
number one trend, and this one is kind of, I don't know if it's I can't tell. It might be a little bit wonky. If you look at the real estate marketplace, the comprehensive real estate marketplace is kind of presented but through the MLS.
Mm.
With cooperative compensation coming out and aggressive exclusive listing strategies, you have to wonder what keeps the comprehensive marketplace together, which is a foundational aspect of the U.S. real estate ecosystem. And we just analyze some of the major threads and have some conversation pieces about what's happening, what are some of the things that Compass is doing, what are some of the developments with other technologies that are allowing other companies to explore more private listings or off MLS, or marketing listings widely off the MLS. So that's a really important one. I think that one's going to be foundational in years to come, depending on the way this goes. Because
Absolutely.
as we talked about, in a market economy, does a comprehensive marketplace exist without some structure in place? We had a
Absolutely.
structure in place
Have had. Yeah.
that has changed.
Yeah. It's changing for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
let me pull up the slides and let's
Okay, let's
walk
do
through
it.
the trends you just described. You guys should be seeing my screen. I'm going to kick us into presentation mode here, and then all right, we're good. So you will see this slide a couple of times. Once now, once at the end. If you're on and you already ordered your report, great. It should be in the mail. I just got mine yesterday, so these are now showing up. If you did not, there's still an opportunity to order some. We have some in inventory, so pick up a copy.
And I think we should say if you purchase it now, you can access it online
That's,
immediately at t3trends.com. So if you want to follow along, it's there.
you get it right away. So I'll remind you at the end also. Okay, so let's look at brokerage consolidation. So this big trend five, is all about how the consolidation of the industry is working. So why don't I just jump to your first? Like this is again, this is a big chapter. It's got a lot of stuff in it. Talk to us about what
This
we're.
just shows, I mean, we looked at the data from 2017 to 2024. This is the Mega 1000. This is the 1,000 largest brokerages, and we have them in cohorts, the top 100. This is the market share, the sales volume market share, and how that has changed. You can see it hasn't quite doubled, but it's close in each cohort.
Yeah.
And like the top 100, it goes from 25 to about 26% to 42% of the 100 largest brokerages are doing that percentage of the whole sale, the whole market
Yeah,
of
and
sales.
this is due to a combination of things. This is both, merger acquisition activity of companies being folded in, as well as organic growth, especially of the very largest firms, where they've added a lot of sales volume, unit volume, and agent count over the last 5 to 7 years. Is this faster than it was the prior 5 years, Paul?
Yes. I mean, and that's a I know that's a when we have the data, part of we chose this. We have clean data starting in 2017, and so that's part of I think we can say we can't say it's quantifiably, but yes, like
Yeah.
this is just a trend
It,
that's we've been seeing deepen every year, and it continues like we see it accelerates. And there's an interesting related point. So if you look at over that time period, the non-Mega 1000 brokerages, those are brokerages outside of the Mega 1000, their market share dropped by nearly 25%. That change. And
wow.
then you look at all the cohorts of the top 100, at least grew by 60%. I mean, it's the numbers are showing there in black and white.
Yeah. So
This
so
is
what's
a
happening is the bigger getting bigger, the larger companies or the more professional run companies are taking more. And is this true this is also true for units as well?
Yeah, it's the units are a lower percentage, but the same leap,
Same trend.
same percentage in leap. And
Well,
you made a good point. I mean, we were talking about evaluating this chapter. It's not the number of brokerages. We're talking about concentration of production.
yeah.
This is things are that's where this is really happening.
Yeah, less brokerages individually doing more production, and that concentration happening in the top 1,000. I also say people go, oh, well, this is this going to be a totally consolidated industry? We got a long ways to go. And there's still a lot
Yeah,
of production in the top 1,000 brokerages to consolidate. If you want to look at a consolidated industry, think about the pharmacy industry. Ask most people, think of a pharmacy, and at best, you're going to get to like three, at least here in the
yeah.
US. You get to Walgreens, CVS, and maybe your grocery store has a pharmacy associated with it, but that's a consolidated industry. That's not real estate. Real estate has we have a long
Well,
way.
we may be on our way
Yeah,
with the compass.
maybe. Yeah. So
Because
let's talk about that one. That's kind
yeah,
of I feel like is the literal elephant in the room is the
yeah,
Compass Anywhere transaction. So you did some analysis of that in this, or your team did some analysis of that in
yeah.
this chapter. So tell us a little bit about that.
So if this is using 24 numbers, but if you combine Anywhere and Compass, and this is just the brokerage sides, company-owned offices, because of course they now
Right.
have franchise offices, that combined sales volume equates to about 13.8% market share. I mean, we're getting up there. And if you look at the enterprise, which includes the franchise brands, which is a little bit different lens to look at, you get near a quarter of sales volume market share. 790 billion.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that number
almost,
just should make you 1.2
it's enormous.
million units.
Yeah. It's enormous. I mean, we T360 has been classifying brokerages for a long time, and there has been a special category and enterprises, not just the brokerages, but also the franchises. We're the only company that does that, by the way. We roll up and look not just at the company brokerages, we also look at the entire enterprise, including all the franchises. We also look at the franchises separately. So, and we've had any that were over 100 billion. That was a special group. It was a very limited number of companies in that group. It's really only two for a long time, right? And now
Yep.
we have several that are in that group. And then this is you can say 790, let's say 800. Well, now you're not too far from $1 trillion in sales volume going through a singularly owned entity. Well, granted, there's franchises and all that kind of stuff, but it all rolls up into a singular entity. As
It's pretty wild.
It's wild.
And if you go back to just the brokerage side, it's just a clear the number 417 billion. The nearest one is EX would be EXP.
152.
And
Yeah,
it's like 3x almost.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that
And
hasn't happened. That kind of dominance has not happened in
yeah,
a long time.
it's remarkable because it's not single unit market share; it's double digit market share. And in some markets, and I know we've done independently some look at individual markets and had some data from those. And there are some markets where the
Yes.
anywhere combined is well over 30.
Above 50, approaching 50%.
Yeah, yeah. Now they may have to make some changes with that in to get approval for the merger, but notable. We discussed it a little bit, and
Yep.
it's big markets like San Francisco, DC, New York, Miami, ones where there's a lot of Compass and there's a lot of other anywhere brands.
So zooming out, this is kind of the point of the chapter. The things that are happening here at this scale, this is changing the way competition works in the space. Like these are new, different dynamics that are emerging. And so it's just just gives the clear perspective there. So this one, so the
This is
other
kind of our
side,
summary of what this means, and how.
well, actually, this is the counterpoint to acquisition. This is the organic growth. These are the elements of the national brokerage platform. And these are the mechanisms by which these companies like Real, EXP, Fathom, and these other companies and LBTs should be mentioned there, are growing like wildfire with organic growth, largely not through acquisitions. And the second line there is it's well known. Agent revenue sharing, equity grants. That's a really compelling one. You can see their marketing spends are way down, but they're compensating their agents through incentivizing them or rewarding them when they are recruiting agents to the company. But also another important component, and Jack, we've talked about this at length, is the single national brokerage brand, often under a national platform. So there's the efficiencies that scale here that really haven't been there before. We've had regional brokerages, but this is in the last decade or so. Or Redfin's a good example. Compass, of course, is there, and these companies can under a single brand. So in the past, it would be franchising. Now teams and brokerages can go to these companies and fold in and get some of the same benefits on a single platform and brand.
Yeah. What else do we have on this chapter? Or do we want to jump to the next one?
Yeah. Let me.
I think we've got trend 4. So
Yep.
yeah, so this is the kind of multiple changes that are all happening together that are not all the same.
Nope.
They're different touch points of change in the industry.
Yep.
Talk us through these.
This one, I think, started leading off we analyze the traditional brokerage. So we have T360 broadly defines categorizes brokerages into 4 business models. Traditional, this is the traditional like 80-20 roughly split, and there's a graduated scale. The cap, there's a relatively low cap like EXP, KW, those type of companies fall under that. The fee base they usually charge just a fee, a transaction fee, or a monthly fee or annual fee instead of splitting commission with the agents. And the business generation, this one is where the company itself is generating most of the business that the agents do. And so that's kind of how we split it up.
The teamerage model. I think we only have 3 companies in the top.
Yep. Yeah, and Redfin is like the hallmark of that. It's like everybody knows
Yeah,
Redfin.
Mark Spain Real Estate, and Jason Mitchell.
JMG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
James. So
Yeah.
yeah, great. So tell us
So
about this.
this is,
We classified the top 100. So talk to us about
yep. So if we look at the Mega 1000, the top 100 in 2018 and 2025, how is the composition of brokerages by business model changed? And you can see the traditional has gone down from 72 to 53, picked up in large part by some of the cap models and fee-based. And a lot of these are Remax affiliates and the cap model, the real brokerage, the EXP, those type of companies are really having an increased presence. And then the business generation, which is they're fewer, but they're growing as well.
So this just shows you the model changes and I would say the numbers. This is just the number of brokerages that are represented.
Yep.
It doesn't represent the sales volume done by those brokerages, which would be a different chart entirely.
Yeah.
But it does show that there are more companies in the top 100 that are using these models than there were in the prior period, and less of the traditional. So talk to us about. You've got another slide here that's real interesting about price point. So this one's fascinating. Talk to us about
Yep.
price point.
If and this is just taking the top 100, the brokerage is like looking at their for each of the companies categorized and taking their average sales price and the average unit per agent. Or just taking the average sales price of deals they've done overall in the top 100 categorized by business model. You can see that the traditional model, and this section was called the power and decline of the the traditional model. The numbers have declined, but it still is very powerful because of the higher price points. It is generally the domain at higher price points. The traditional model still dominates. It's reflected here in the numbers. You can see
Yeah,
that these other companies are operating, but at much lower average
yeah,
price.
we're more likely to see brokerages that sell in high end or luxury segments have retained a traditional model as their operating basis, which drives that average price point up in that top 100. It's just kind of part of the positioning of those particular brands that sell in that segment. So, um,
Yeah,
so this next slide I thought was fascinating
this is really compelling.
from a broker owner perspective. Again, this is based on the top 100 brokerages.
Yep.
I know your team made some assumptions about kind of splits and compensation plans.
Yes, we use the generic like 80/20 as traditional. We applied that to the top 100 traditional brokerages. I mean, there's it's not like it's 100% perfect, but it does give you the overall scenario where if you just look at it by the typical agent, they're at the traditional model among the top 100 brokerages using 2024 data, the most recent Mega 1000. The traditional model brings home to the agent much more than the other two models. Now, we have to emphasize the cap model, which often many of these have like EXP and real. There's compensation related to revenue share and equity grants that is not calculated into this. We have to emphasize that because that is a significant for a lot of agents at those companies. So that's backed out. But just in the raw actual
Yeah,
production, you can see that the average agent at a traditional model takes home more and the brokerage takes home more.
yeah, and my interpretation of this chart was this is sort of agents seeking out the model that fits their priorities. If you are an agent who is more focused on unit economics, to say, look, I'm only going to sell 5 or 6 homes this year, so I need to maximize my unit economics. Maybe you're at a fee-based or capped company where your unit economics can be better for you. You may be taking on some costs and expenses because you may not have the full support in that you would in a traditional model company that might have more staff or more resources for you, versus the traditional model. You're more likely to have agents that are saying, hey, I want the support, I want the marketing, I want the listing management, the transaction management, so that I can go do a lot more volume, right? And maybe also leverage the brand to work at a higher price point. So that's what I took away.
And
So
we
that
don't have this, and we
yeah,
would love to get it, but like if you overlay the profit margins of each of these models, I think it would be different.
yeah,
And so this is part of the why maybe the decline in the traditional model in the top 100 and why it's still powerful. There's a dichotomy there. There's benefits on both sides, and I know we know traditional brokerages in particular, a lot of brokerages, profitability is a kind of
Yeah,
an
has
ongoing
been hard.
challenge.
It's been hard for a lot of companies in this market, no matter
Yes.
but it is interesting that you look at the overall economics of it, and
Yeah.
I do think there's the chapter has more on this, and so that's part of why we're recommending if you haven't got a copy, get yourself a copy because it will give you some thinking about how to analyze your own business and the businesses of the brokers that you compete with in your market.
And once again, like these chapters talk to each other because then we go into like in the real chapter, and we'll get to it in a second, but it goes into specifically how some of its efficiencies are in place that are helping it grow and how it sheds light on that
Yeah,
model.
yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about the National Association of Realtors. So you also included that in this chapter
Yep.
as a part of the
Interviewed
part of the
Nakia,
plus.
and she's been out there. We know what she's had to say, and she's a force. We focus in on just some of the new perspectives she brought to the company. She was a consultant at many large companies before, and so she brought this really focused mindset to the association, and we see that in even some of the changes they've introduced. Like she's talking about the zero balance budget, which is a
Mhm.
big deal, like operating like and making sure that every expense is tracked relative to revenue.
Mm.
Um, and she hinted it in our conversation. You could see the association is a little bit taking a little bit more of an arm's length relationship with MLSs. And like, for example, the MLS membership, that announcement that came out with in our annual, that kind of relates to it. And she brought in a lot of her people and her staff are from outside the industry. So she was out from outside the industry, and she has key people in places. Of course, she has some advisors like Sherry Chris and others that were inside the industry, but she has people really bringing us fresh perspective. And so it just kind of shed some light and details on what that perspective is and where she's coming from.
Yeah, and I think you had some concepts around what NAR still has to work with
The
that remain part of the challenge.
the big one, and we we did this I think a couple years ago, Jack. It's the governance structure, and she's talked about it, and it's hard to be nimble and to make very quick and relevant decisions that can adapt, and which is increasingly what we see is like an important in NAR. So that one is remains as a challenge. I know she's focused on and thinking about it, but of course there's lawsuits still going on, as we know, they keep coming, and the one of compensation is not over. There's all these different threads coming up, and then of course the MLS and like association membership and MLS access that maintains. And then we have, what role is NAR, if any, going to take? And this is maybe an ongoing question. Maybe we have the answer. I'm not sure. Is in supporting the comprehensive marketplace. It played a foundational role before, and that's for a lot of, as we mentioned in the chapter.
Establish the comprehensive marketplace for
Yeah,
the.
and she's de-risking. I mean, of course there's some risk there as we see, but that's still an open question.
Okay, let's talk about artificial intelligence. That's another one of the.
This is, it's interesting. And especially reading the earnings calls for those of us who do that, of the big companies. It's amazing. I mean, AI, of course, is a hot topic, but they go into detail of exactly in some of the mechanics of exactly how they're achieving efficiencies. And we just synthesize some of that in this section. Just say this is like how Rocket is doing it and some of the results they're seeing. Like I think on the most recent Rocket earnings call, and all of them do it. Zillow's talking about too, but they have three separate agentic AIs for specific workflows that they pair with some of their officers or
Mhm.
different segments of the
Yep.
mortgage conversion. And it's just really compelling to see that. And then we profiled. There's a lot of companies doing this now, but like we profiled one company in particular, House Whisperer, for those who know it, and it's really compelling. It's a real estate specific tool that leverages agentic AI, and I did the demo with the company and some of the users, and you hear about the features and the utility, but when you see it, it's kind of mind blowing.
If you haven't done a demo, I mean, that product's amazing. There's some others like Shiloh and it's experiential. And like for instance, like House Whisper doesn't have a login. You don't go anywhere to use it. It just calls you or texts you.
It's just a number, a
Yeah,
phone number.
or emails you, and you
Yeah,
interact with it as if it's another person, which is pretty wild.
yeah,
Pretty wild stuff. So, yeah. So really, this one again, we've written about AI before, but it feels like 2025 and 2026 it's coming. It's having more of a tactile impact on brokers and agents, and there's some great material in that part of the report on what that is and what that's going to look
yeah,
like.
yeah.
So, oh, there we did have a little bit on. I think you had there. You studied how many of the agent tasks can be automated and
Yeah.
or given to artificial
I
intelligence.
think we have 57%, and
Yeah,
that was identified. There's a lot of these tasks and that's the way the approach to start leveraging AI is like itemize all the tasks, what can be automated, and you just like as this slide outlines, it's like this is the steps you take, and there's more and more tools available to help.
yeah, yeah. Check their work though. I got to tell you, some funny results. I've learned to always. It's like you have a first year college intern working for you sometimes on some of this stuff. So good stuff. All right, last one in this industry and flex chapter or trend. Legal.
This one, there's just some broad overarching threads that we track, like the referral programs, the listing access and visibility. Talk about a little bit of the RESPA. There's no breaking. I mean, we know some of the threads there. It's just talking about what are next steps. Like, of course, we know that Anywhere or Compass and Zillow just entered their initial hearings of that case, and we talk about some of what to expect and the timing of each of
Yeah.
these big.
I took away from this section of this that that the legal industry is not done with real estate, and
No.
that it's still a time for brokers and anybody that's creating forms to be very diligent about that. And the chapter has some good thinking about areas for specific diligence, referral fees being one of them, obviously, which has
Yeah, since was this published that broke of Zillow being a case coming up against Zillow for the referral fees, and of
yeah.
course, in just a response to that.
Yeah, so it's that, and also the unified transaction and RESPA concerns, and those are so. There's a lot of places where you want to be extra diligent right now because the attorneys are still at play. So they've moved into other areas of the transaction or other areas of the consumer and agent interaction. And I think this chapter does a good job of keeping us up to date on that. Okay, let's move over to the national brokerage platform. So tell us first of all, define for us what the national brokerage platform. What do we mean by that?
It,
What does that?
essentially, there's four components. Not all these companies have all four components, but they're usually characterized one, they don't have offices, and so they're extremely efficient. And that's not the case with all of them. Like Compass is one that could be categorized as this, but they have offices, of course. They often have some sort of revenue share or organic agent growth mechanism. They have a national brand usually, and what's the fourth, Jack?
Well, they have centralized technology and
They
services.
have they're extremely efficient. Yeah.
Yeah, their efficiency
That
built for efficiency, meaning if you started a real estate company 20 years ago, you would open a local office, you'd hire local staff,
Yep.
and you'd negotiate with a vendor to get different tools, or maybe you get some of those through your franchise. This is one huge company doing all of that and centralizing and saying we're going to have a whole room full of transaction managers and a whole group of people that just do marketing for listings or whatever it is, and that kind of the efficiency of
And
operating.
often a company owned, company built platform. That's not the case with all of them, but
There's
as
components of that. There's components of that in almost all of them, where it's they've built
yes.
they have something that is there. So let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about why we say it's a big deal. Why? And this
So
I think
these companies are all have elements of the national brokerage platform. You can see the time it took for them from founding and launch to grow to 10 billion annual sales. You can see it's compressing. LPT is mind blowing. I think 2021 it's founded. It launched in 2022, mind you. That's when its operations began, and it got to $10 billion in sales in 3 years. I mean, that's just hard to fathom. And it's leveraging all the elements of this. It doesn't have offices, as a platform, has the organic growth component, the revenue share. And it's just this is the proof is right there. And so as we know, 10 billion is massive. and these companies are
And there's
exploding.
others behind it. There's Epic, and there's other companies that are providing this kind of platform that are also growing quickly. Now, I will say, don't forget in the slides we shared on the traditional model about the demographic of the agent that is being attracted. In terms of
Yes.
they aren't now. It is there's productive agents at every company. What we had in the study of the traditional model versus the other models is the traditional models had higher sales volume agents that were making overall more money. So
Yeah. Well, I
keep that
think
in
we, I
mind.
don't know if we have that slide to show, but like, for example, later in the chapter, we have like the average agent at Compass is doing about 7.2
It's in the
million.
chat. It's for sure in the chapter.
There's 7.2 million in sales, and the average agent at Real is doing 2.5
2.5. Yeah.
million. So it just shows
Yeah.
this is like part of that chart that we showed earlier, just kind of applied to the specific company.
And talk to us about this. So this, I love this. It looked at, we were trying to find ways to measure efficiency. This is a measure of efficiency, is how many agents are serviced by a full-time employee at these different.
I mean, it's amazing, and this illustrates, one of the things that stood out in doing the research on the company is experiencing its platform. And kind of that's part of it. It's built, it has no offices, so it has brokerages at the state level. So that's part of how it's being really efficient. It has a built in-house platform. The platform is really powerful in that it automates a lot of the transaction management and organization. Also, it's just like very, very easy to see and manipulate for team leaders. It's like self-serve. And one of the most compelling things is teams and brokerages that come over. This is the first time we understand platform. This felt like less like a brokerage and more like a platform. And I know that's an overused term, but seeing the platform and the tool in action, for example, team leaders that come over, as we know, these companies, in particular, Real is one of them, and LPT and XP and others, were bringing in large brokerages and large teams, and they can port over their agents and businesses, and it's model looking at the platform, the leaders can customize their model on top of the Real model. They can have different splits. They can customize splits for all their agents to specific agents to by transaction, and it's self-serve completely, and the system automatically adjusts all the compensation, all the transactions, all of it. It's really compelling.
It's impressive. Like that's why this chapter is such an interesting study because it goes deep on this one company, but also is informative about like, oh, these are the kinds of things that if you were to with a blank sheet of paper design a national company today, they're doing all the things. You're like, oh, I'd have one technology platform. I'd make the transaction management super efficient. I'd make the finances work great. I wouldn't have people going out and picking off the shelf back office and accounting systems. I'd create a master system that can do a whole bunch of stuff.
And,
It's
and
pretty
and this
impressive.
platform is adding a new ancillary that hasn't really been to try to scale, like they call the Real Wallet, and they're adding a credit facility. And because they have 100% of the agents are on their platform because that's how they get paid through it. So that should open a lot of people's eyes. And Jack, I know you and I have talked about that before. So they have all their sales history and transactions. So when they can make business loans to their agents and have all this information that can have better risk analysis. It's compelling opportunities that this type of platform opens up for a company.
Really, really cool. You did include. I think this speaks a little bit to the what we were just talking about in terms of the demographic and the
Yep.
average sales. So
This is just showing like what are the challenges and opportunities of this model. Like the opportunities are the efficiency, and then as it scales up, it's the average sales price is lower. The average sales price of top 10 brokerage, it's like this goes to that will be one of the things we know the company will be working on developing. And it's like attracting maybe higher price markets, and they have a luxury division. But this is part of the challenge of, as we know, high touch, high service. That's the element of the traditional model, and this is where some of the competitive dynamics are really coming into shape. Is like, will these operational efficient companies be able to really move into that direction at a
can they move
meaningful
up
way?
market? Can they move up market? They right now look very much like the average
Yep.
market. Average sales price is where they are right now. Can they move up market or not? Will LPT
That's
move
an
up?
open question. And
Yes.
we haven't seen these companies before because the technology and scale is opening up in a new way, but that's still an open question. And that's something that will be worth watching. And this is the chapter lays out some of the metrics to watch for. It's like, is this happening?
For sure. Okay. Talk to us about trend number two. This one I remember when the Rocket Redfin uh, merger acquisition was announced. I think you and I had a call that day, and I said, "Well, we have to address." We were already talking about this
Yep.
concept, and we've written about it before in the past, but not at this level, right?
Yes.
And I said, "Look, when you have a massive, massive, massive mortgage company buy a massive real estate organization company portal, what does that create for them?" So that's where I think where this came from is
It's
this.
it's like Jack, like thinking about this and looking at all the components that go into what this trend represents specifically is it feels like this is the first time where you can see potentially, I know we've used this term a lot, but the agent not necessarily being the center of the transaction experience. And I don't know if the chart's in the slide. Um, but before we go there, I mean, this idea is not new. We've talked about that a lot. But
Yeah,
what is new is the scale at which
yeah,
this is happening because Redfin is a top three portal. And then Rocket is the number two purchase mortgage
yeah,
company. And then,
yeah,
as we know, it acquired the number one loan servicing company in
yeah.
Mr.
So
Cooper.
and
So,
as an example, this is my little personal story about that acquisition. So my wife and I are we're mom and pop residential real estate investors. We have a couple of properties that we own and manage, and at least one of them is serviced by Mr. Cooper. And so I remember the announcement was made on like a Wednesday or Thursday. It said, okay, the merger's been approved. We're moving forward. Rocket is officially acquiring Mr. Cooper. And on Tuesday of the following week, I got a postcard in the mail that said Rocket Companies now is going to be taking over servicing of Mr. Cooper loans. So if you could imagine, the deal was announced on a Thursday, and by Tuesday, all of these servicing clients, myself included, received that notification. That's the kind of like organization and sophistication of this player. Now, how many of us spent like a year trying to coach an agent to send a
and
postcard campaign
Rocket
to a
reports it
neighborhood?
has 10 million servicing clients
Yeah,
now. And another
it's not
interesting
the
note,
whole market, but it's a lot. That's a lot.
it's a lot. And it's like, to your point, the speed with which they're operating, which that is another thing that kind of is
Impressive.
being clear. They're in their most recent earnings call, they say that they've increased their mortgage attach rate on Redfin buy side deals from 27% to 40%.
Bonkers.
And anticipate, and as anybody that knows mortgage attach rates, 40 is
27 was pretty
world-class.
good. 27
Yeah.
was real good. There's a lot of people here probably have a JV and they're like, I wish I could get 27, let alone to make it go up by nearly 20 points. It's
And
bizarre.
that just, yeah. And
Yeah.
this is just showing the scale and like where these companies is Rocket and Zillow. We paired those two in the chapter because they have significant rental play. They have Zillow's growing their mortgage play, but they have significant portal and they have large, they're touching a lot of consumers in the real estate purchase side. So this just shows some of the companies
It's
that
just some of the
Rocket
some of the
has.
scale where they own the number eighth largest brokerage, number three portal, number two in mortgage origination, number one in servicing. Wow, it's a lot. It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
So
And
and yeah, and talk to us about this. Is we also include there's some great stat. I love this chapter because we've got so many stats about the different companies that are doing this, not just Rocket. But
yep.
talk to us about
This
the
is like we've gotten data from SimilarWeb, and we should make the caveat that it has not mobile app data. It's mobile web and
yes.
desktop. But regardless, this shows the top portals and when average monthly uniques visitors in the second quarter, the most recent we've digested. And you can see that Zillow and Redfin there are top three. And you can look at if you look back down the top 10, you have some of the brokerages like starting to show up. Like Compass is the largest brokerage there, aside from Redfin, and then you have Movoto and Remax, and that just shows like the dominance in the consumer touch points of kind of where Redfin and Zillow are starting to play when like integrating the mortgage. And Zillow, we should add, we spend a lot of time on Rocket. Zillow's in their enhanced markets and their preferred strategy in the super app. They're merging the experience for consumers into one integrated transaction. And we can go to the next slide. I think it's a good time to do that.
Talk about what that is, the integrated transaction.
So, and I don't know if we have the other, I'll talk, this just shows like all the things that these companies are organizing into one platform. But in thinking about this, Jack, this was the first time that I could see the agent being not the center of the consumer transaction, like for the consumer. The platform, because these companies own mortgage, they own title, and they have the platform that stitches it together. The agent becomes a tool they're not necessarily the project manager anymore, and the key introducer, or like they're introducing all the components. The company itself, or the platform itself, is stitching these together, of course, within RESPA and like all of that. But the relationship with the scale and the technical savvy there, you can see potentially the relationship is with the platform. And the platform's providing all this, and the agent is less of the project manager and organizer there.
Yeah, I feel like I've been to this movie before. Like people are like, "Oh, can this be the thing that
Yes.
disintermediates agents being at the center of the transaction? Is this one big enough? Does this one have enough of the playing pieces?" And I think that's what this chapter does such a good job of exploring, of showing how it isn't just Rocket, but it's several other companies, Zillow included. Jason Mitchell Group is one of them. Other companies that are also exploring this trend.
Yeah. It's like all come together into it's like this is the closest we've seen
Yeah,
this
it is.
done. Yep.
All right, so number one trend.
Yeah.
Let's talk through this one. So this one has been all over. I feel like realestatenews.com and all the other media portals in our space, or media outlets in our space. It seems like there's a almost daily drumbeat about private listing networks and off market, and obviously we had changes in policy that came out of both the lawsuit, and so take us through this one.
I mean, it's a big deal. It frames the what's happening in the broader context of cooperative compensation coming out of the MLS as a result of the settlement. And where does that leave us? And Encompass is going all in. It's the largest brokerage. It's potentially about to double in size with the Anywhere acquisition, and it's achieving the strategy. That strategy really becomes much more powerful and incentivized with market share. And and of course, we're seeing it play out in the Compass and Zillow lawsuit in the kind of front pages there. That's exactly what they're talking about and debating. It's like what's good for the consumer, and but these are very clear strategies that they're applying. It's not just Compass. There's other companies and
Mm-hmm.
platforms that are enabling a lot of companies to do it. And the point is what is the incentive for a cooperative marketplace with compensation out? And so we just evaluate kind of the different components of what's happening there and kind of frame the conversation, because really a clear conversation about what the industry wants and where's it headed. And we have a related study, and Jack, you'll see some of this soon, where we went into this wasn't part of the this STR, but we'll have in some of the updates. Is we did an off MLS study of listings and homes sold compared to public records, and how is it evolving over time in specific markets, and it's really compelling. And whether it shows what's happening now, but it will be a good baseline to compare maybe what's happening in the future as we continue to study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. And I think you've got a little bit about what the exposure means from when you have a comprehensive marketplace that is feeding to the portals versus.
This kind of just illustrates some of the competitive interest that maybe Compass has, and maybe some of the other companies will grow into. Is the average of the top four. This is the traffic to the domains, the top four domains, which is the portals that we know. They just outpace significantly all the other companies and home portal operators. And so Compass, if you have exclusive inventory, if you have market share, you can start getting more traffic. And with more traffic, a lot of other opportunities open up. It's a smart strategy for brokerages to pursue. Is it good for the market overall? Is it more equitable? I mean, those are pretty, I think the answer to those questions are pretty clear. But
Yep.
once again, this just kind of illustrates some of why this strategy is kind of happening.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then I know you had some updates in here about what Compass has been doing in terms of their private exclusive and coming soon, and
Yeah,
what
this just shows some of their like some of the the exclusive inventory they've kind of shared and what the numbers were, and this kind of shows a little bit how it's changed over time. And of course, this is only through April, so some of that's what's publicly available. But this just shows some of the scale and scope of what's happening. Of course, this is a three-phase marketing plan that Compass rolls out. So they start with private exclusives, and then they go to coming soons, and then go to a standard listing, and it kind of the cadence goes through. And the coming soon is the one where that in particular that Zillow and Compass are kind of battling over because that coming soon is marketed only on Compass but not through IDX. And so there's the crux. You have to go to Compass or
Yep.
engage with the Compass.
Good stuff. Okay, we do have some questions, which I am going to try to see if we can answer, and a little bit of chat and Q&A. This is now the part where I'm going to remind everybody, if you haven't got your copy, order it now. We did a print run. We've got a fixed set of copies. We're probably not going to reprint it. If you order it today, you'll get digital access. Today you could have these charts and graphs. Some of which there's some questions coming in that are related. Definitely related, and I may pop out and zoom back to some of our earlier slides, Paul, because I think
Okay.
might be helpful. So, first question I got was, is it correct? It says, is it correct that the top 5 companies are doing half of the entire business of the top 100 companies? When I don't think we addressed
Hmm.
that specifically in the chart.
Hmm.
When I look at the chart, and I'm actually flipping through the copy of the chapter right now. The top 5 in based on 2024 sales volume is doing 22, almost 23% of the entire 1,000. So I know we have that stat.
Yeah. I don't think we've done that one of what the
I don't think we
percentage
did
of the
that one.
top 100.
What is the percentage versus the top 100 of the top 1,000? It's 22%, and that's up from 11.9%. So it's almost doubled from 2017. And so that just tells you that top 5 is really has grew substantially, grew really by acquisition, by organic growth, by lots of different things. So that other stat we'll have to dig that one out to say, well, how much is the top 5 of the top 100? That's a different question, but I don't think we answered that in our chapter. But you can definitely see how much they've grown in comparison to the rest of the 1,000. And this is another good question, Paul, that you and I can maybe speculate on a little bit,
Hmm.
about, are the demographics of agents at the quote traditional model brokerages different? Like, are they older, tenured, more
Hmm.
experienced? Does that explain the GCI differential? I don't know that I don't know that we have the survey data to support that, because
Yeah.
we really looked at unit. We looked at agent count, unit sales, and sales volume over the last 6 or 7 years in order to do that analysis. So I don't think we don't have the demographics necessarily.
I think based on the consulting work, I think you could probably generally answer, but like, yeah, do we have the data on that? I don't think we do. I would
Yeah,
think based on anecdotal, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's they're older, more seasoned agents are usually at the traditional model.
yeah. I'm gonna pull over. We have some slides in here. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. So we looked at. So I think we're really talking about this slide right here,
Yeah.
just to say what do we experience differentially. I don't know, do we have the unit slide? I think you had some of the stats for the units, but the unit volume was interesting for the differences between the models. because it was the unit volume was for like the EXPs and the real brokerages, the fee based and the cap models was much more similar to the average, the average number of units. So it was like 5 or 6 units per year,
Hmm.
right? Versus when you looked at the traditional model brokerages, I'm going from memory here. I remember the sales volume was higher. The unit volume, I think, was also higher in terms of they're more productive generally, and that may indicate tenure. I mean, that isn't that you don't just start in the business and all of a sudden you're selling double the average number of units per year, or selling into a higher end market. That's unusual for people to come in and do a whole bunch of volume. So I think you could draw that conclusion, and I could tell you in the consulting work, it is a certain kind. Like we in the chapter, I know you wrote a little profile of some brokerages that are
Yes.
very profitable and doing very well. And they did tend to, and the one that I'm thinking of sold in a higher price point was
Yep.
very had and Lisa Picardo, who's on our consulting team, we had a call yesterday with some of our clients. She went through and said some of the things that she noted from all of the business reviews that we've done at brokerages is that the brokerages that have better financial performance and have more productive agents said the number one thing they all had in common was a strong leadership team. They had
Yes.
they had a
And we
they had
profiled that. It's
yeah
like that will, I think one of the conclusions is like the traditional model can be strong, but the operational like excellence required
right.
will is just it's required now. It's like
Yes, yeah. You have to be good at delivering great services to the agent for them to appreciate and get the benefit of the traditional model. And it's the same as like if you have staff and technology and marketing and brand, but you don't use it, then you will not get the results. But when you do have it, then you can get the results in terms of the agent's more
like
productive.
culture and accountability and like growing the agents and we all know what those components are, but like just implementing them.
Yeah.
It's like is kind of clear, especially from the chapter. It's like that's
That
necessary now.
that's been one of the theses that I've had over in the consulting side is that operating a highly profitable brokerage today is more difficult than it was maybe 20 years ago because you have more domains you have to be good at now. You have to be good at marketing, good at technology, good at agent recruitment and retention. You have to have better mastery over more areas, and there's just less people, less executives in the industry that have the ability to do that. And so that's one of my theses or my personal theses around what somewhat drives these acquisitions is you have operators and they can't operate at the level that is needed. And so they end up folding or selling or rolling up or merging in order to get a new caliber, a different higher caliber of talent in order to run or operate their business. So that's a good question. It's a good question. I'd love to do some demographics around that and learn more about some of the more productive brokerages in terms of what kinds of agents are there. Instinctively, I feel like they are probably older, probably more established, and probably value the services very highly and actually use them. They use the transaction coordination, they use the marketing, they use the material, right? That's likely what's going on there. And they built out a network and they have a good
And
reputation.
have a
All,
pretty
all
good
the fun,
split.
all the fun, and probably have negotiated a very, very aggressive commission rate for themselves with their broker. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So great. Well, just as a final reminder before we drop off, if you haven't ordered your copy, I'll flip it up here. Go get it. You'll get digital access right away. We'll ship out a print copy for you. We do have bulk available if you would like to get copies for your board or your leadership team. I really think, and listen, I try not to, I know I have all the incentive to puff up and say this is an amazing report, but I really do think this report has critical information for broker leaders today. Just understanding your competition. I've presented on it, Paul, now without you in client contexts, I think 3 times now. And when you dig into it and really look at
Well,
it,
it's compelling.
it's
It
very, and
just
from a
helps you
competitive
think
analysis
bigger.
perspective,
It's like,
yeah,
where are we going and
yeah,
why, you know?
it tells the story of where the industry is headed. And great job with this report, and to your research team. You guys did great. And I love the charts and graphs. They're really great. We have more of them this year that really help tell the story of the industry. So, so thanks to everybody that came out. We are going to be, if you've been to our webinars before, we're glad you came back. If you're new here, we do something like this usually once or twice a month. We also have a series called Ask T3, which is on vacation right now, but we'll kick back in January. That's hosted by Nick Bailey or another team member. Nick's hosting it actively right now. He's running that show. And we have other material coming from the consulting group that'll be on some live webinars and podcasts. So do tune in. We've got a lot more coming for 2026. There's some big stuff happening, and we're going to be there right for you. So thanks again for everybody that attended. Love seeing the group come out, and let us know if there's anything we can do for your business. We have a lot of, as you see, this is the research. We do a lot in the consulting side, and would love to help you grow, help you develop your business, do a 360 business review, map some outcomes for you and some strategies. And we've got a whole team that's ready to go. So 2026 is right around the corner. Let's get after it. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.